In case you missed it, here's a Sports Animal Rewind.
It's time to talk Tennessee football, but the former Vols that are entering the NFL draft. We bring in one of the veterans that does a great job, accurate, and brings great insight all the time for Our Lads Scouting Service. Dan Shonka joins us here on the new Sentinel Sports Page. Hey, Dan, Vincent, Evan, how you doing this morning, Dan?
I'm doing great, guys. It's always great to visit Knoxville even over the phone because I used to go there about 4 times a year when I was with Eagles or the Chiefs or the Redskins, and in the heyday of volunteer football, I guess you'd say. So it's always good to talk to you guys.
Well, we appreciate it. And I was going to say, and at that time, in those days, there were a lot of prospects going to the league, and with all the vets. So now this is probably the most we've seen as a group of former Vols going into the NFL in one season in a while, because there was that down period in between, right?
Exactly, and you're right, because we used to go in there, and I'll tell you, I mean, from the Alvin Harper days way back then, to Mayo, and I mean, they're just outstanding. I mean, believe me, UT looked like a pro team when you went to practice out there, so. But it's good. Hey, maybe things are starting to turn again, but a lot of great tradition at Tennessee. That's always great to visit there.
Well, Dan, I want to hit on each of these guys one by one and get your thoughts on them. You have Tyler Bray you've talked about him, and he's listed on Our Lads. With your Chris Stauber had his rankings on Our Lads by position, and also one of the players that helped themselves the most at the scouting combine. Talk about Tyler Bray, your opinion, Our Lads' opinion on Tyler Bray.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think this, Tyler certainly has all the tools, but his inconsistency was, bothersome, and if you don't have he can line up and look like an NFL quarterback on the sidelines warming up. There's no question about it, a big-time quarterback. But, he's got to smooth out his inconsistencies. Hey, nobody probably in the country had as good a receivers, except for maybe Matt Barkley and maybe Geno Smith. Had a couple really good ones, but nobody had better receivers than Bray did, and an outstanding tight end in Rivera. So he had to take advantage of those, and not winning some of those games with that kind of talent, is bothersome. And I know it's not just the quarterback, but sometimes that quarterback's got to carry, the team on their back. And but he's got to have some developmental time. He's got to mature, but he certainly has NFL talent. That's not a question.
I'm wondering, Dan, we hear so much, especially in the information and misinformation and speculation leading up to the draft. It's about off-the-field stuff, and I'm not just talking about arrests. I'm talking about attitude and body language and interviews and some guys like Bray and to a lesser extent Cordero Patterson get tagged with a negative on those things. And how much does that really matter? And if you're an NFL team and you see the talent there, aren't you willing to overlook a lot of things just because not everybody in the league is a saint?
Right. Well, believe me, about 75% of the league, may be questionable going through the pearly gates. You know what I mean? But I think that each individual team and then each individual owner group, they look at these guys. And if he's got a chance to contribute to a team, but the thing is, when you're looking at the main focus of a quarterback, the ability to be consistently accurate, your leadership skills, that weighs a lot on teams. Now, does that mean that he may not get drafted, in the 3rd or 4th round? Probably not, but he might be taken off some boards altogether. But all it takes is one team to like you. That's the thing about the NFL. You got 32 different teams. You got one team that likes you, and it doesn't really matter what anybody else says because they want to, prove everybody else wrong. so they'll pull the trigger. But character things, and then certainly your interviews, and then the thing is, guys, it's the herd mentality, and when one or two teams get down on you, or say for instance, you got an offensive lineman that some people had liked at first, and then you get a bunch of offensive coaches coming in to work out. They, oh no, he can't play this and that. Well, unfortunately, all 32 teams might think that way before the end. So, that's the danger in that type of thing.
Visiting with Dan Shonka from Our Lads, OurLads.com. Also, you can find him on Twitter. It's at OurLads_Shonka, SHONKA. Talking NFL draft. So does Tyler Bray, with the point you made, that one team, it only takes one team to fall in love with you, do you think there's a shot he could sneak into the bottom of the first round? And if not, what is his round range?
No, I don't think so. I think that you're looking at probably the third round, but somebody, like I said, could possibly take him in the second round. But again, everybody does their due diligence, and the way the teams process their information. Because as you guys know, you learned about it in elementary school. You can all be in a great, you're in the classroom, and the little kid, the first in line, can turn around and tell somebody something, and then by the end of the row, the story's completely different. And that's the way it's going to be with these football players. That a guy like Bray, he's certainly, because people just talk, now, but one team that will like him will say, hey, let's take him in the second round if he's there, because there's a lot of questions about this quarterback class, and he certainly has the talent. But, hey, there's guys like Derek Anderson that had great talent out of Oregon State, too, same size, and throwing, and he went in the 7th round. So, you don't know until the day they pull the trigger.
Dan, what about Cordero Patterson? You have him in your latest mock draft at number 8 to the Buffalo Bills. Is there a specific type of team that might draft Cordero Patterson that he would be a fit on, or talk about some of the options of teams that could draft Cordero Patterson?
Well, he is a tremendous talent. There's no question about that. So I think, what teams are going to do, because I think it's universally recognized that Cordero is an outstanding talent, and it's just a matter of him, how fast he's going to be able to absorb a pro-style offense, which, is he going to be able to move, say, for instance, all around the different alignments? Can he play an X? Can he play a Z? Can he, when they flop a formation real quickly, can he pick that up? He's the number one, and on our mind, he's the number one receiver in this draft. And talent-wise, you guys saw him. He's spectacular when he makes plays. He doesn't always look like he knows what he's doing, but I'll tell you one thing, he's a guy that he can make stuff happen. And I think that teams like St. Louis are definitely going to take a look at anybody that needs a big-time receiver. And obviously Buffalo would need a big-time receiver. Teams, you can't have enough, especially now with the way you're spreading people out. You need 3 big receivers. And he ran even faster. His official times at the Combine were in the 4.37s, 4.36s. And, I don't know if it was even reported that fast, but he certainly has the talent to help any ball club out there. And it'd be great if he went to a veteran team, with some help that could teach him the ropes. But hey, there's in fact, you could almost say every team out there would need a receiver like Cordero. It's just a matter of, hey, if Minnesota, they would love to get him. The Seahawks, they would love to get another weapon out there. Hey, San Francisco. Now, they drafted a first-round guy last year, and Jenkins never got on the field, but he isn't in the same class as Cordero. So, you just don't know, but we think he's going to go in that middle of the first round.
Well, while we're talking about receivers, I mean, Justin Hunter is the one that's on everyone's radar screen, but Derek Rogers, it's hard to tell on a national level where he is on the radar screen or if he's even on your radar screen at all, but he was a guy that a year ago was mentioned in the same breath as Justin Hunter and Cordero Patterson, and obviously had off-the-field troubles, had to transfer to a lower division. Is he popping up on NFL radar screens, and is someone going to be willing to give him a shot?
Yeah, I'll tell you, again, teams do their due diligence, but you're exactly right. I mean, he's a big-time receiver that, as I recall, even led, I think, the SEC in reception and yards and all that when he was there as a junior or a sophomore. And, but a very talented guy, no question about it. His only thing is going to be if they can smooth out, because he is certainly a first-round talent. I mean, there's no question about that, and so his talent is there. He's got the size. He's a physical guy, and again, the off-field red flags. I mean, is this guy coachable? I mean, it's public information that he failed some drug tests. But again, like I said before, the 75% of the NFL. And this doesn't make it right, but 75% of the NFL, they're not all going to go right through those pearly gates at the same time either. So I think that a guy like this is going to get an opportunity, and if he screws up, then it's on him.
What do you think his round range is, Derek?
Well, I mean, some teams are going to say, "Hey, this is a first-round talent. He's sitting there on our board, in the late second round. Let's pull the trigger on him." I mean, there's so many inconsistencies, say, for instance, in this particular draft and within these players. I mean, teams are going to grab guys. You're wondering, wow, did they take him early, or how did this guy last so late? And but I would doubt if he'd be on the board at the end of the third round.
Visiting with Dan Shonka from Our Lads Scouting Service. They do a terrific job. You can find them online at ourlads.com. What about Justin Hunter? You do not have Justin Hunter in your mock draft in the first round. We've seen him on some others, but there's not a consensus. Talk about Justin Hunter as a prospect, and does he have, in your mind, a chance to get into that first round?
Well, again, he did everything he could do, worked out well at the combine. All the Vol receivers, former and present, did well at the combine, and they showed their athletic ability. And, Hunter is a guy that's just a little more slender, and I think people are concerned a little bit about, big press corners banging him around. But he does so many positive things, and they worry about his injury history a little bit, and then he'll drop the routine catch at times, but he just needs some more overall strength and become more disciplined in his route running and things. But I think that was kind of a theme that ran through all the receivers, the kind of undisciplined play they had. I mean, the talent is clearly there, no question about it. So. There's so many good receivers. In fact, you're talking about three of them just, at Tennessee, including Rogers, if he, is still there, that it's hard to, and, now we're talking about the whole country, too, that there's going to be some first-round talent. You remember Carl Pickens? Well, Carl Pickens was a first-round talent, but he didn't go to the second round of the Bengals. Well, that's going to, be the case, I think, with a couple of these guys.
What about Dallas Thomas, who had the torn labrum, wasn't able to do much other than talk to teams at the combine, and then wasn't able to, as he's still recovering, wasn't able to participate in Tennessee's pro day? What's the evaluation and round range of Dallas Thomas?
People really like him. Versatile guy, could play. He'd be a 4-for-1 kind of player. In regards to, because you only dress in 7 now, the offensive line in the league. So you want a guy like Dallas Thomas, and hopefully he gets that shoulder taken care of and things. But I think that his range could be anywhere, and some teams will knock a guy back a little bit or put him on the side injured board. But I would think somewhere in that second or third round area, he should be off the board. Again, all depending on how his recheck goes up in Indianapolis, on that injury and things. But as long as it looks like everything's healing good and he'll be ready to go before long, a team, he is a good football player. I don't think there's any question about that. People like what they see in Dallas. So I think you're probably talking, like I said, that late second or third round area.
Dan, last couple things with you. What about Michael Rivera, who's done, who's at the Senior Bowl, obviously, and also part of the Pro Day and the Combine? What do you think about his round range? And then any other guys that, whether it's Eric Fisher from Central Michigan, who was recruited and coached by Butch Jones, now Tennessee's coach. You have him at number 2 in the mock draft. Any other guys from Cincinnati or with ties to Butch Jones that you could talk about after Michael Rivera?
Well, I'll tell you what, Rivera is, he's a specialist kind of H-back guy, real good hands underneath things, and he's going to go to a team that's probably already got 2 big tight ends that can block for you and be on-the-line guys. Rivera's an off-the-line player with good hands, a good football player. His caliber of player, I'd say 4th or 5th round. There's a few other guys that maybe in his size that will be graded a little bit higher, but, he certainly has talent. So, probably in that 4th, 5th round area. Of course, Fisher, the thing is, I'll tell you right now that a lot of teams, and I've talked to a lot of offensive line coaches out there in the league because I'm kind of leaning to Fisher over Jokel, to be honest with you, because Fisher's a better athlete. He's got a little bit more length to him. He didn't play the competition, that Jokel did. Jokel played in the Southeast Conference and with all the outstanding pass rushers and things. But Fisher is certainly a talented guy that I don't know if Kansas City had the guts to go with him, even though they might like him just a little bit better than Jokel, because Jokel has played against that speed. But Fisher, it's Fisher or Jokel, Fisher. You can almost flip a coin on that, and you can have an argument either way on those guys. Who you want to take first. But I think that Cincinnati, with their good linebacker Blair's coming back this next year after an injury. One guy that I'd like to mention though at Tennessee before we forget about him too is Zach Rogers. He's a guy that I absolutely loved this year, and everybody's talking about those big receivers, that great athletic ability and all that. But I think a guy like Rogers is going to have a shot to make it somewhere on a team because he's just a real consistent hand catcher and love the way he played the game. So I think that he's going to get drafted. It's going to be a little bit later, but he's going to be one of those kind of guys that's going to make your team. Just
one last quick thing. Anything on Montori Hughes, one-time Tennessee Vol from Tennessee Martin, and then also anyone else from Tennessee, whether it's Darrington Centimore, who's been doing a lot of the stuff, or anyone else on the Apprentice Widener's, a number of different guys. Any other names that are appearing on teams' draft boards that might, in your opinion, be at least in the draft range?
Yeah, well, I think somebody's going to take him. He's an undersized linebacker, but good football player, and I think that at worst he's going to get signed as a free agent. But hey, there's a lot of guys at his size that started out as free agents and have made a good career in the National Football League, and. I think a guy like Montori Hughes, he's got the size, he looks the part, all that. He got hurt, before the Senior Bowl, didn't get a chance to play in the game. But I'll tell you, God only makes so many of those real big defensive linemen, and you've got to have some people up front. Your 4-man front people, he'd be an inside tackle in a 4-3 scheme. Some people may put him at nose tackle to get some push up there on the center. But, you're probably talking about, somewhere in the 4th or 5th round, somebody's going to pull the trigger on him because there's just so many big guys out there, and he's one of those big guys.
Less than a month away from the NFL draft. Our Lads has it covered. OurLads.com, and then you can follow Dan on Twitter. It's OurLads_Shonka, Shonka.